here we are back for another one of my in-depth model reviews. And in this video, we're going to be looking at the Tamiya 1/48 scale Meteor F1. I've had this kit kicking around for a few years, and I finally decided to build it. And this is the F1, so it's the first edition of the Meteor. So it's got the shorter wings, it's got the bigger, fatter engines, and it's got the early style canopy. And I think that's the most important thing to realize with this, is it does have that early style canopy, which most people don't necessarily want, but they end up not realizing what they get when they buy it, because they're expecting the later style canopy. So just be aware about that when you do go and buy it. So we're going to, I'm going to work my way through this just like I do with all the others. We'll start with the sprues, and then we'll move on to the instructions and the decals. Just get everything prepped here. I can put that back in there now, and I can put that back in there now. Okay, we'll start, as I always do, with the fuselage sprue. So typical Tamiya quality, you've got lots of nice surface detail, nothing is overdone. Construction is relatively easy when it comes to these kits. So I mean, these are definitely a kit that more of a beginner could use. The only weak point in the kit is it suffers from this horribly bad, let me just zoom in here a touch, this horribly bad Tamiya RAF pilot. This is the same pilot that's in all the Spitfires and the P-51, and it's just weird. He's all like bloated and fat, and it's just a really, really bad molding. The fact that Tamiya continues to use that molding is a little bit surprising to me. But anyways, included in this sprue with the fuselage, so you get the main fuselage for the early model. Here on the little extension with the sprue gate, you get the early style upper canopy. So you can see how there's a sprue gate at this end that would allow for the later style canopy piece to be attached there. So depending on what gate opens, you either get the late style or the early style, but everything else stays the same. So fuselage halves, the pilot, the nose wheel, the pilot seat, the instrument panel, nose wheel seat, the nose wheel itself. On this side, you get some more gear doors. I believe there's still nose gear doors. The control stick. This is your nose landing gear itself. The wheel well. You also get your rear wing fillets, where the wings, join the fuselage or separate parts. And I'm 99% sure these are the upper engine covers that go over top of the wings. Inside the cockpit, there's nothing molded to the inside of the fuselage, so you can clearly tell the cockpit's going to be a full tub. There's no sidewall detail to the fuselage. But other than that, so far, other than that really dumpy looking pilot, everything so far looks really nice on this kit. So moving on to the next sprue, I'll put the clear parts aside for now. We'll look at those later. So this includes your wings. So you get your lower and upper wings. So there's where those covers would go over the engines. Your area here for your wheel wells, your dive flaps as well. Upper and lower speed brakes, so you can deploy those or leave them in. You get your intakes for the jet engines, and then these would be your gear bay doors, and there are your speed brakes included on this kit as well. So again, lots of really nice detail. You can see your wheel well here, which fits into the hole. So it definitely has, I mean, again, it's not crazy detail, but it's enough that with a bit of painting. Oh, yeah, I'm not even in the frame. Ugh, helps if I'm in the frame, eh? So you can see there's quite it's not amazing detail, but with a good set painting, some black wash, a bit of highlighting, you could definitely make that pop a little bit. So it's not a horrible kit, but definitely not, a top of the line kit. But it's an early Meteor, so it's there's not much out there in this. So that's the wing sprue, and then moving on to this baggie, you get a few more little things in here. So these are a duplicate of each other, simply because you can display this model with the engine covers off. So you do get a copy of the Whittle engine, the centrifugal compressor Whittle engine. You get main gear, main tires, horizontal stabs, and then all your bits and pieces for your engine. and they're duplicated because you need two. So that again makes, especially if they're exact copies of each other, they just save on plastic. They just pop these out and throw two into each kit, and then they have duplicates. It's a lot easier to do that than to make, for example, one big one, because you only need one small tooling instead of one big tooling. So it makes life a little easier when you can save on cost. The engine itself doesn't look horrible. It looks pretty basic. I'd have to put it all together and see how it looks. Make that decision on whether I'm going to build it with the engine exposed or not. It doesn't look terribly detailed. It just looks like a decent representation of the engine. Moving on to the clear parts. I'm not going to take them out of the baggie just to protect them. It also looks like it comes with clear engine covers, so you can put the plastic ones on or put the clear ones on, which would be interesting because you could kind of paint a bit of the camo up onto it and leave like a little viewing window around the edges if you wanted to see down inside the engine compartment. That might be an interesting road to go. And then you've got your two canopies, and I'm not entirely sure why. Oh, one's got a little bump out on the top. I'd have to look into the meaning of that one. But one is flat, one has the bump out, but you can clearly see it's a very interesting style canopy where the canopy swings up on one side. It'd be very difficult to get out of that in a pair, a bailing out situation. But not a lot of clear parts, a little bit of landing lights, the two canopies, and then your clear ports for your engines. Pretty basic. We also get, there's a bit of a nose weight involved in this, which is nice that the Tamiya included this. They started including some nose weights on some of their later models. It's literally just like a block of, I would assume that's aluminum, but it's just enough weight to jam up in the nose to keep the nose down, so that's always nice when you don't have to go around and find something and weigh out your own little bit of weight. What do we have here? What is this? Oh, it's just a generic warning. Don't need that. Okay, looking at the instructions again, typical Tamiya instructions. They open up into this big sort of fat booklet. Usual little spiel on the front about the kit itself. So then moving on, we'll look at step one, just the simple assembly of the fuselage. The two halves get glued together with those wing fillets. Step two, we get the wings all assembled, all the interior painted, the interior green color. The weight goes into the forward half of the wing, and then everything gets assembled together. And we don't actually start building the cockpit till step three, which is a bit of a not a backwards way, it's a different way of doing it. Most kits you start on the cockpit first. On here you actually assemble the entire airframe first and then start working on the cockpit. But it's this pretty basic cockpit, as you can see. Not much to do. There's some decals for the seats, there's a decal for the instrument panel, and then everything gets put together. And you can see how the cockpit kind of slides down into the nose, then the upper fuselage comes on top and locks the cockpit in place. Then you assemble the engines. Again, I'm not entirely sure if I'm going to go that route or not. We'll have to wait and see how detailed it all looks when it gets put together. It does give you some nice callouts to mix and match the colors to make sure that you do have a little bit of a variation, sort of a metallic. That might be fun to do with the Alclad. Alclad it all up in different colors. See if you can make it look decent. And then you put the engines into the wings, and here you can see how you go with either the clear or the solid plastic engine covers. Again, be interesting to see if you could kind of paint an interesting pattern on that, mask off like a blob, and then paint it. And when you peel the blob off of whatever you use, whether it be like, the masking putty or, something like that, so that when you pull all that off, there's this, it's not a perfect clear square, it's like this clear window on the top of the fuselage, the intake you can look down in. So I might do that just to make it interesting. We'll have to see. And then moving over here, step 7 is the landing gear. So you start by installing all your geared doors first, as well as some of the little lights on the bottom. And here it shows you kind of how all the doors should line up and sit underneath the wing. And then step 8, you put together the nose gear and the main gears. Put it all together, and it kind of shows you there's a different painting scheme for one of the schemes we do. There's a bit of a difference in painting, so you got to be careful with that if you choose to go that route. Step 9, we glue the wheels on as well as the lower dive brakes. Again, they can either be open or closed. You just have to modify the part depending on how you want to do it. And then 10, we flip it over. Same thing, the upper dive brakes, open or close, depending on how you choose. You also install the cockpit, and then you decide whether you want the clear, sort of smooth canopy or you want the one with a little bit of a rear view mirror. You make that decision. And then there's also pitot tube and the landing lights and everything else that you can then deal with there. And then you move on to painting, and you get three different paint schemes involved in this kit. And on the surface, they all look basically the same. The first one here is from 616 Squadron, and it's aircraft EE216. I'm not even in frame. YQE, and all of them are sort of the dark sea, ocean gray over dark green with the medium sea gray on the bottom. So sort of late war Spitfire scheme is the basics of how it's going to look with the sky band and everything else. So very generic markings, nothing too crazy. The next one is also from 616 Squadron. This is YQE, this is YQY, EE227. So again, it's other than the difference in squadron code, the two models look exactly the same. The real different one is this first one, which is actually the first prototype of the Meteor. And I think this might be the route I go because the bottom of it is actually painted in a yellow color. It's very close to the German yellow, which I do have, so I'll kind of have to figure that out. But I think this is cool where the whole bottom of the plane is painted yellow. Whereas this is the gray. It's ocean gray over dark green with the belly painted yellow, and I think that's just interesting enough to make me want to build it, especially with the engine compartments being visible. I think that'd be an interesting look. So I think that's the route I'm going to go, but we'll see. I'm still going down that route. But so the painting is relatively simple. It's a very generic, standard RAF markings. Here you also get a bit of stenciling. It shows you where all the different stencils go on the kit, so that's always nice. That's one of those things I feel like if I did this up as the prototype, if I ended up getting other models, say the Airfix of the later model, you know, Meteor F.6 or something, it'd be really cool to have a later Meteor kind of on the shelf beside the prototype. I think that'd be an interesting, you know, juxtaposition to do. And you also get this, which I always like with Tamiya. It's full size plans for the camo, so you can photocopy this and cut them out and use them as paper masks if you want to be perfect with your camo lines, or you can just kind of freehand it with an airbrush, or use the silly putty method, making little silly putty worms and matching it up. But it gives you a couple of different options if you want to be very, very close, or, you know, iffy with your thing. The RAF tended to paint their aircraft with rubber mats. They would lay the rubber mat down and then paint on the edge, so you tended to have the same panel camo lines on all the planes. They were all sort of cookie cutter design. So it was very, very standard across all their different aircraft. But it all just depends on how you want to do it. But yeah, see, ocean gray and dark green over medium sea gray, or yellow if you do the prototype. So lots of cool options in that one. Looking forward to getting a Meteor built. It's been, like I said, I've had this for many, many years, and I'm finally getting around to building one. So on that note, I think we'll wrap this video up. So that is the Tamiya Gloucester Meteor F.1. And yeah, thank you for watching.
Thank you for watching, guys, and as always, if you are interested in any of the content you see, you can access my website at www.seans-aviation.com. You can see all the latest pictures of aircraft and museums and the build logs of all of my current models and past models on that site. And if you're interested in any of this content, please click the subscribe button here on YouTube to follow more. Thank you very much, and see you guys next time.